Welcome to a very special edition of my Booktube videos. I want to say thank you everyone for this milestone of reaching over 400 subscribers. It feels so awesome. I feel humbled in many ways, but I also feel proud in many ways. I started this Booktube channel a little over 6 months ago. Oh my goodness, I never imagined that I would have so many subscribers so quickly. So thank you once again. I think you guys are awesome. If you listen to my videos, I greatly appreciate you. All the people who press the like button, who subscribe, and especially who leave comments and interact with me. I just think that is so awesome. So thank you, and thank you for being here. This is the video in which I answer the questions from the Q&A video that was posted a few weeks ago in anticipation that this might actually happen, that the subscriber count would actually get up there. Originally, I asked if people would prefer maybe a book tour, a bookshelf tour, or if they wanted a Q&A. Some people said both. Why not both? But the Q&A won overall, so I'm sorry you don't get to see my books yet, though you may see them in the background with pictures of my cats and things like that. So it's coming eventually. Maybe the next time we hit a big milestone, that could work out. With no further ado, let me get to the questions and trying to answer them. I took some time to copy and paste them into a file and organize them in a way that I thought made some sense transitioning from topic to topic, but I have not actually thought out answers yet. So you're going to get my raw reaction of giving you some answers, and I hope that my answers are worthy of the questions that you have asked me. To start with, there were three main topics, which were why my face is not on the screen during the videos, how I produce so much content, and you all want to know about my cats. So I'm going to address those three first, and then I don't have to keep answering them over and over again in the questions. So if you asked about them, I'm just doing an overview up here, and you won't be mentioned specifically for those questions. Sorry. Alright, number one, why isn't my face on the screen during my videos? There are at least 5 different answers I can give to this that would all be honest but take a different spin on how to answer the question. I think the easiest way for me to answer it is to talk about the second main topic, which is how do I produce so much content. I created this channel during the pandemic, and it's been very therapeutic, it's been very helpful with me, and it's been great for connecting with other people online, even though my face is not in the video. I created the Bitmoji cartoon avatar, which I swear to you really does look like me. I am an overweight white man with brown hair and a beard, and that is very much what I look like. So you see the cartoony version of me. But one of the ways that I'm able to produce so much content is because I'm not appearing on video. Many of you who watch my channel are YouTubers yourself. You know that it takes a lot of time to set up if you are caring about your appearance. If you are trying to get your face and body ready for the camera, trying to get expensive equipment for lighting and set that up for lighting, trying to find the appropriate angle or backdrop of what you have in your home living environment, or if you have even more expensive stuff like green screens and all of that, then you know it can take a long time just to set up to film, just to get all of that in order. And I don't have to worry about that. I don't worry about lighting. I don't worry about what my face looks like. I can just click record and go with it. So my main answer is it is much easier for me to not worry about that. But I could also point out other things, like I haven't had a professional haircut in over a year and a half. I've been cutting my own hair, and even though I don't have a lot of hair, I know it might look a little goofy, things like that. So I just prefer to do it this way. Now, if you somehow convince over 1,000 people to subscribe to my channel, maybe I could be convinced to actually do a video with my face in it. Who knows? You guys might convince me eventually over time. Another answer that I could give is that when I spent months on YouTube watching Booktube and AuthorTube videos before actually making my first video, a lot of people who give advice about how to be successful with YouTube and marketing and trying to get more subscribers and all of that said that you have to put your face on camera. And I am a very stubborn Texan, and part of my psychology was to think, I want to prove them wrong. I want to prove that I could get 500 or 1,000 subscribers without even using my face on the camera. Part of it's that mentality. But mainly it's I don't want to have to worry about it. The third main topic... Oh, wait, I still need to say more about the second topic. How do I produce so much content? I might not produce as much content as you think because my videos are really short. So when you really stop and think about it, the average booktuber who puts out maybe 2 videos a week that are each 15 to 30 minutes long. That's a total of about 30 minutes to an hour's worth of content that they create and put out on the internet that they have to film or record and they have to edit. I am producing a similar amount of content, really, because my videos are only about 5 minutes long. Granted, I have one each day of the week, but 5 times 7 days is just 35 minutes worth of content. So there's an illusion that I create more content because my videos are split up every day of the week. But really, when you think about it, me having 5 videos a week about 5 different books and then 2 booktube videos with a tag or updates, that sort of stuff, is very similar to the amount of time of someone who just does 2 videos a week, one that is about 5 different books and one that is their update about their reading or writing and reading vlogs, that sort of thing. I don't feel like I produce that much content. I just break it up into smaller chunks, which is more manageable for me. Something else that's happened this last year or so with the pandemic is that during the last school year, I volunteered to teach all online classes. So even though in Texas we still had to go into work, I had to go into the building and be there for work, all of my students were online. So I was answering their questions online, helping them online, grading their work online, monitoring their discussions and that sort of thing. But the school district that I work for actually purchased a learning system that had video recorded lectures and pre-assigned activities to where a lot of the time that I would normally spend teaching, I did not have to spend teaching. A lot of the time that I would normally spend doing lesson planning and coming up with new activities for my students, I didn't have to do as much of that this year. So a lot of that time the teachers spend early in the morning or late evenings coming up with more stuff and planning. My year was actually easier for me. I did not have to spend as much of my own personal time doing that teacher stuff. So I had a lot more free time when I wasn't actually teaching. So it worked out very nicely. I am a little concerned that in this next coming school year, since we will be back to everyone being in school for the most part, that I'm not going to have as much free time. But my thought is I will just switch to producing all my content on the weekend. Trying to do, about 5 or 6 hours of work on Saturday and 5 or 6 hours of work on Sunday for the YouTube videos and all that, instead of doing it throughout the week. Alright, you all want to know about my cats. The cats that I currently have are 2 cats. I call them the Panther brothers because they are brothers. One of them is a Russian blue, so he looks gray, and the other one is black. But I think my black cat's feature, especially when they were kittens, looked a lot like the Russian blues. The black cat is a little smaller. He was, I guess, the runt of the litter. And he has the overbite with the giant vampire teeth, which are really cute. So my cats are brothers. Their names are Jack and Daxter. Jack is the black cat and Dax is the gray cat. I like to call him Dax because that's like Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Alright, let's go with the specific questions. This is going to be so much fun. Book Zealots asked, first made a statement saying that I'm not in the witness protection program, which is fascinating. I don't know how Arion knows that I'm not in the witness protection program. Maybe I am. Maybe that's why I really don't show my face. But really wants to know what that I feed my cats. And I feed them the cat food recommended from the pet store over here by where I live. So I try to allow my cats to have a nice active life. But I know they're probably a little more plump than a lot of other cats are. Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats asked, how many pets do I have? It's just 2. Just the 2 cats. I used to have more and other pets. I've had bearded dragons, I've had a turtle, of course fish, all kinds of stuff in the past. Dane Reeds says, your thumbnail has got me wondering who the longest cat friend is that you've ever met. So the cat that I had growing up for the longest amount of time, once my parents allowed me to have a cat, was Princess Leia. She was a cat that I adopted, who was also a Russian blue when I was a kid growing up. And she's my cat that I signed up for the science fiction book club so that I could get more free and discounted books and that sort of thing. She was a great cat. I called her Princess, even though really her name was Leia. Jasmine Dayton asks, does your avatar actually look like you? Yes, I am not trying to throw you off. And I do recommend Bitmoji for those of you who want to create your own cartoon avatars. It's a very useful program. My only frustration is that it's one of those apps that you have to use your phone for. You cannot make the graphics with your computer. Just like how on Instagram, I cannot use my computer to post graphics. I have to get on an iPad or phone. Emra by the Book asks whether or not my experience has been good or bad with having the faceless channel. And I will say, other than the shock of realizing when I asked for the Q&A questions that so many of you were somewhat perplexed or curious about this, yes, it's been a completely positive experience. I did not realize that that weighed so heavily on everyone's minds, but I should have after watching all of those videos about how to be successful on YouTube. And Mason in the Dark wants to know what that I have on the screen when I'm talking. Mason, for you, I will answer this question. I put up a little title screen at the beginning, and then I put up usually screen captures from Goodreads and Amazon and IMDb, the movie database, and I often talk about books that have adaptations, so I will take the photo gallery from IMDb and use photos from that, or I will show alternate book covers and whatever I can find about the author. Sometimes if the author has an author website, I'll put up all those kind of images. I do feel that I do a nice job putting those images up on the screen, but they're really not necessary. I would say it's listening to what I have to say that's hopefully the most important part of the experience. Amy the Potato Brarian asks, how long does it take you to put together your videos with all that artwork? And I would say that when I go to make a video, it ends up about 5 minutes of talking. For that, I record probably about 6 to 8 minutes of talking and then just cut out the kind of useless parts or me meandering or saying stupid jokes, that sort of thing. A lot of stuff gets cut. As for the graphics, it doesn't take very long to do the screen captures because I've gotten used to it. When I first started, I would actually get out the books and take photos of them myself with my phone, and then I'd have to deal with getting the photos off my device onto the computer and all that, and that would take longer. But I have stopped doing that unless there's some sort of reason, like showing my TBR pile or something. So it really only takes me about 45 minutes to edit everything together after I've recorded the audio. So I can produce a video in 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how complicated it is. Also depending on how many images I want to share. Like when I did the videos reviewing Margaret Pinard's books, there are not a lot of images for Margaret Pinard's books. You know, there's the book covers, there's her author profile stuff. So I could have spent hours going out on the internet and stalking Margaret Pinard and trying to find more images. But I thought it was perfectly fine to keep an image of a book cover up for about 20 to 25 seconds at a time before moving on to another image. So those were really easy. Just a few images and the video was done. Something like the Temple of Elemental Evil video that I just made takes longer because I wanted to show each element. I wanted to show the board game. I wanted to show the video game. I wanted to show the old adventure modules. So I was capturing a lot more graphics in order to put that one together. So a lot of those graphics are only on the screen for about 10 to 15 seconds. Basically, I'm saying the longer the video is and the more that I want to show, the more pictures it takes, so it takes longer to put together. But it's really not that hard. I really think that what I do on here is very easy, and you could all do it as well. Miss Reads a Lot asks, how far in advance do I plan my videos? I have a spreadsheet that I keep in Google Drive, and I've got all kinds of tabs in the spreadsheet to where each day that I do each genre has its own tab, and I have a list of works that I would like to talk about in the future in those tabs. Then in the main spreadsheet, I've got every day throughout the rest of this year, all the way building up to January of 2022. And I have, what day of the week it is, so what genre I'm supposed to talk about. And I went ahead and plugged in potential books to talk about. But it's a very flexible schedule to where I'll hear someone say something on YouTube during the week and I'll change my mind and swap out the book. And so those sub-tabs that I have allow me to just copy and paste book titles in and out from the main spreadsheet into those tabs. Or I might have a day where I just don't feel like talking about a certain book, or I've fallen behind schedules. So it's a flexible schedule, and I just swap in and out what I want when I need to, depending on how excited I am about talking about something. Miss Reads a Lot also wanted to know whether or not I was going anywhere on vacation. And for that, I'll say I used to travel all the time. During the pandemic, especially, I'm not really interested in travel, but also I'm a bit traveled out. So my ideal vacation now is to stay at home and hang out with my cats and read. Gaia Athena says, do you make a video on that day and then edit it, put it up straight away, or do you pre-film more and schedule them later? Right now, I am doing them basically day by day or a day ahead, but back when the school year was going on, I would usually be about 3 to 5 days ahead of schedule from what I was posting, and for the coming school year, I'm hoping to again be about a week ahead of what I'm posting. But doing it on the day or one day ahead gives you a lot of flexibility, I want to say. Like when Booktube Spin 3 suddenly happened out of nowhere, I had no problem with filming a video for that, completely changing up my schedule for the week. When is my birthday? My birthday is tomorrow. My birthday is on the day that people really should be posting mid-year freak out videos, and that is June 30th. I've loved having a life in which Christmas happens on one end of the year and my birthday happens 6 months later. As a kid, it was really exciting. You know, you get presents for Christmas, and then it was perfectly balanced. 6 months later, I would get presents for my birthday. Chris Reviews asks, how are you going to celebrate your birthday? Every year, I celebrate with a cookie cake from the Great American Cookie Company. This is not a sponsored video, but their cookie cakes are the best. They're very fresh. They're really nice. I used to celebrate also by going out to eat at a Fuddruckers restaurant, which is a great franchise where they have a lot of different kinds of burgers, and it's just a lot of fun to eat there. Or I'd eat somewhere else, you know, with family and friends and all of that. Rosie Cockshut says since it's my birthday month, she wants to know my ultimate reading setup experience. I would say that if I could have anything I want, whatever snacks I want and all of that, really I prefer ultimately to read at home and probably to order out to get some nice food delivered so I don't have to cook and it can be nice and relaxing that day. And I have this pattern of moving around from place to place because I'll read for hours at a time when it's an ideal reading situation. So I will read on the couch for a while and then I'll move over to the desk and then I'll go sit in my bedroom or lay on the bed and read for a while and then I'll come back to the couch. You know, I rotate around from place to place. Beth Ann Bruninga Sokolar says, is there a fictional character that you relate to or see yourself in? And I would say yes. I'm sure there are so many characters over the years. One of my favorite characters when I was growing up was Captain Woodrow Call from Lonesome Dove. I feel like he and I were both raised to be these supposedly very emotionally closed in, but also kind of strict and polite, professional mannered people, but who like the idea of going off and having adventures and that sort of thing. I think when I was growing up, I saw something of myself in Captain Woodrow Call. He's such a fascinating character too. Book Buds, Mary and Joseph, I don't know which one, maybe both, asked, do you read on vacation or take a break? For me, reading is a vacation, so I would say yes, definitely. And when I used to travel, I would always bring a book with me. You know, I have great memories of, say, when I was flying to Ireland, I had the book Bringing Down the House that the film 21 was based on. So I can specifically remember being in certain places with certain books. When I traveled from France to Spain, I brought The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. I read the parts where the characters are in France while I was in France, the parts that take place in Spain while I was in Spain. Fun things like that. Reading in Retail asked, have you read every book from one author? Yes, but probably that would just be authors who have just one or two books. I do own a lot of books from R.A. Salvatore, from Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, but certainly not all of them. I haven't read all of them. And, you know, with Stephen King, it seems impossible to own all of his books. Even, I think I own like 15 Stephen King books. That doesn't even start to get all the way through all of them. Courtney Ferreter said, what are the best and worst Booktube-related books that you've read? or Booktube recommended books that I've read. Back in January of this year, I did my TBR based on the books that were the winners for the Goodreads categories of best book for the year last year. And I was disappointed by a lot of those books that win the popularity contest on Goodreads, basically. So some of those were the worst. As for the best Booktube recommended books that I've read, I would say Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne and Project Hail Mary by Mark Weir. Mason in the Dark asked, is there a certain word or phrase that you would be happy to never see in any book ever again? James Islington's fantasy series caused me to get really annoyed with the word that is spelled G-A-Z-E, gaze, because I felt like that author overused it. And never before had I really thought about that word or noticed it. But after reading that first book in the series, now every time that I see that word, even with authors like Brandon Sanderson using it, I just kind of cringe because I feel like it's overused and annoying. Describing how one character is looking at another character, following the gaze of another character, it just bothers me now. Kayla Linson asked, what is your favorite genre? I am a very eclectic reader, and one of my great failures is that I don't truly have a favorite genre. I can't pick one because I really truly mean it when I say I love just about everything. You know, I love fantasy, I love science fiction, I love mystery, I love horror, I love reading nonfiction, true crime. You know, there's so much that someone could just start talking about it and I would get excited to learn about it or to read it or get involved with it. So that's a really tough question for me, both as a reader and as a writer, I have to admit. Also from Kayla Linson, are there any books that have had a huge impact on your life? If so, how? Yes, growing up, I read a lot of books that made a huge impact on me. As a kid in the South in the United States, reading Frederick Douglass's autobiography, reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, reading Lonesome Dove. You know, all of these books helped open my eyes to a lot more ideas and perspectives, and I think that helped shape me. But also, I was a member of the Science Fiction Book Club as a kid growing up, and a lot of those science fiction stories, I think, really helped shape my creativity. I'm a big fan of Ray Bradbury, The Martian Chronicles, and all of that. Just Book TV Girl asked, have you been a member of a book club, and who's your favorite author? I love book clubs. Yes, I've been in multiple book clubs. Right now, I'm still currently a member of a teacher book club, which is my fellow English teachers in our English department, which is really exciting to have because it's people that I work with and that I see on a regular basis, and then once a month we come together and talk about a book. My favorite author, that's like asking my favorite genre. My default answer tends to be Alexander Dumas because I love The Three Musketeers and all of that. David Wiley wants to know, what authors, if any, do you try to avoid? And my joke answer is, during the pandemic, I've been trying to avoid everybody. What are those authors who just haven't grabbed your interest? I would say I'm not really trying to avoid any authors, and I try to be open-minded. Like I said earlier, even with the winners of the Booktube categories, I read some books that I wouldn't normally read. If someone tells me that an author is a good writer and that it's an enjoyable story, then I think I'd try to give it a chance. Sophia S. asked, Harry Dresden or Hercule Poirot? Who would you pick as the better detective? Definitely Hercule Poirot believes he is the world's greatest detective. But this is a tough one because Harry Dresden from the Dresden Files is a wizard. I mean, he has magical powers. So in my mind, that kind of trumps Hercule Poirot when you're able to cast a spell, defend yourself against evil, that sort of thing. So Harry Dresden's going to win that battle, in my opinion. Fit to be Read wants to know, what is a book you have not read that you've thought about reading or have wanted to read for a while, but just can't seem to get around to it? I would say The Elusive Gunslinger, the beginning of the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, which, now that my brain is thinking about it, actually won one of those tag video, like, read the first sentence or paragraph challenges, and I was supposed to read it, wasn't I? And I haven't. I have not gotten around to it yet. So that's my bad. Amira Hamid says, what do you think of consumerism in the Booktube community? With the giant haul videos and all of that, subscription boxes. I personally don't do any of the subscription boxes, but that's probably just because I'm cheap and because I want to control very much what I spend my money on. And I fear I'm going to get random stuff that I don't actually want or need and feel like I may have wasted some money, but I don't know because I really honestly haven't tried them. I might greatly enjoy getting random things in the mail. So it's hard to know my thoughts on it since I don't really have experience on the subscription boxes. As far as consumerism and book hauls, I don't really do book haul videos, but in trying to figure out how to navigate using different forms of social media, what I've decided to do is use Instagram and post pictures of books when I get them in the mail. So instead of doing book haul videos, I'm going to relegate that to Instagram. Because quite frankly, having a YouTube, Twitter platform, and Instagram, I don't know what to do as the different ways. I don't want to just put the same content on each type of social media. So I figure I will just quietly share what books I'm getting on Instagram and not have that on YouTube, really. Though it'll be obvious when I'm talking about books that either I bought it or checked it out from the library or borrowed it from someone. I had to get it from somewhere. But I can understand the concerns about consumerism and Booktube. Sometimes we buy way more books than we really need. I know that can be hard for some people to imagine with giant libraries and all of that. But I do have a Kindle and e-reader, and I have started getting more and more books on the e-reader and started thinking that my personal library with my bookcases and bookshelves could be more for the all-time greatest books that I enjoy. Raised by Story says, not really a book question, but what are some of your favorite shows and movies? I love this question because I love movies and TV shows. A lot of the ones I love are based on literature or, to me, are of some sort of literary quality. Right now on TV, the only shows that I'm actively watching that are ongoing are The Blacklist, which I think is phenomenal. And they have some novels and graphic novels that go along with the show, but it's a great crime mystery story, which actually has been in the news for fans being upset with the end of this season, but I enjoyed it. And also the kind of cheesy, campy CW version of The Flash, because I grew up reading those comic books of The Flash, and I love the character as much as the show is sometimes not as great as it should be. But I've really swapped out to where I don't watch a lot of TV these days. I used to watch The Late Show with Stephen Colbert after watching The Daily Show and The Colbert Report and all of that, but I just don't seem to make as much time for TV as I used to. When it comes to movies, I love things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe with all those comic book characters. I really enjoy, here I go being eclectic with genres again, but action movies and comedies and horror movies. I enjoy fun movies, so lots of them. AJ Dunn Reads and Writes asked, what kinds of things do you write about? Here we are shifting gears to writing questions a little bit, and I really appreciate that. As a writer, I have had trouble focusing because I have my fantasy stories, I have my science fiction stories, I have my mystery stories, my horror short stories, I have so many stories that I've written. So I've written poetry, I've won poetry slams, poetry performances, that sort of stuff. I enjoy writing short stories. I've written drafts for several novels and of different genres, so I like to write a lot. The Sook asks, do you ever feel that you have a brilliant idea to turn into a book? Yes, in fact, I would say my problem is I feel that all the time. I constantly come up with more and more ideas, and that makes it difficult to finish them. You know, I'll be halfway through my fantasy novel, and I'll write the first third of a coming-of-age mystery novel, and then I'll go outline a fantasy series where I've got a brilliant idea for some characters and how they could interact, and it makes it difficult to come back around and revise my fantasy novel and finish my coming-of-age mystery novel. I never end up starting writing the science fiction novel, that sort of thing. Joanna wants to know, what are your non-bookish hobbies? For fun, I like to go out in the world and teach people things. I actually get paid to do it, so it's probably not fair to call it a hobby. I'm really into reading and writing, but that would be bookish. I used to play a lot of role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, and play video games. My favorite video games were Temple of Elemental Evil, the Sims games like The Sims 2 and 3, and Minecraft, where you just let your imagination run wild and build whatever you want. But I fear that those would also be associated as bookish and being very creative, thoughtful activities. So I don't know how to answer this question without saying something that could be bookish in some way. I guess playing with my cats. My cats don't read, so maybe that would work. Out of This World Reader asks, what book or event really inspired you to be a teacher? Thank you for asking this. Growing up, had a difficult time somewhat in school and found that my teachers really had a profound impact on me. So I told myself as a kid growing up that I would like to return that to the world. You know, my high school speech and debate teacher was one of the most amazing, wonderful people in the world. I swear she was like an angel walking this earth. And she created a classroom environment that was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And I always looked forward to going to her class every day. And I thought, that's what I would like to do someday. I would like to provide that environment where a student enjoys coming to my class. I provide a safe haven, a fun place where people can think through philosophy, critical thinking, and read and enjoy school. And so I did. I became a teacher, and the first part of my career, I was a speech and debate coach in addition to being an English teacher, teaching English and AP English and creative writing, all that. I used to have a very busy schedule. I used to constantly go to speech and debate competitions and mock trial competitions and UIL academics and academic decathlon, and I was mentoring all these students and all these different activities, and it was really exciting. I just eventually became very worn out because I was doing too much with my life. I was squeezing way too many activities into my schedule. But it was awesome, and I'm really glad that I did it. A-Star Reads wants to know, how do I stay on top of everything and teach? And the answer is, I don't. I can hear my cats fighting in the background. They're brothers. They do that sometimes, just playfully. I really don't. I think that there's a great illusion that I'm able to stay on top of everything while teaching and all of that. But like I explained earlier, this last year was a bizarre pandemic year. It was an exception. But also, even when I was busy with all of those academic competitions and activities, I once had a school principal who asked, Jeremy Fee, how do you do so much? How are you so successful at so many different things all at once? And I told him, I don't really do all those things. My students were the ones actually competing. I taught them, I trained them, I prepared them. I got them, in the right mental, psychological capacity to succeed, but they were the ones doing the hard work. Sometimes when we'd be out on those trips, I would just be sitting there worn out. Berna's Bookish Adventures asks that I seem like a private person, but do my students know about my YouTube channel? And yes, they do. I started my YouTube channel, 15 years ago because my creative writing students insisted that I make a YouTube channel. And that was a lot of fun. I used to do some creative work for that. And then I just stopped using YouTube for over a decade. And, other than posting Cinco de Mayo videos and that sort of thing. And when I started making these Booktube videos, I wanted my students to be able to use the book recommendations as something that could help them find reading. Naturally, as a teacher in the classroom, teaching high school English, I was doing book talks all the time, pre-pandemic. So I would stand up at the front of the room, hold up a book, say what I thought was exciting about it, recommend it. Students could immediately in that physical space take the book, borrow it, or see it on my shelf or at the front of the room and think about it for a while. Once we were learning online, I thought, they could look at my Booktube recommendations. Now, did they actually look at them? No. I honestly think that my students, in an online situation during the pandemic when they were concerned about surviving and so many other things, I think a lot of them probably were just nodding and smiling and like, whatever, Mr. Fee. And they probably never looked at my Booktube videos. But a couple of them, in our discussions about what they were reading, were talking about books that I had recently recommended. So I think it's possible. The greener side of Sam says, if you could have a superpower, what would it be? Oh, Sam, this is a great question. I would love to have the superpower from Jumper, where you are able to just teleport places. And in that book/film, the main character does crime where he teleports into bank vaults and takes things and that sort of thing. But I would use the ability to be able to travel, to get from place to place really easily. I hate traffic. I hate commuting. Having spent so much of my life in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on the highways, just sitting in traffic, been very frustrating. I would love, like in the sci-fi book, The Star's My Destination, they call it jaunting. I'd love to be able to get up in the morning, get ready, go to a teleport pad, and jaunt or jump to a place where I could just take a few steps and be at work or that sort of thing. Be really great. The last question that we have on here is from Hey Y'all Listen Up. So John and Hey Y'all Listen Up, thank you for asking this question. This is by far my favorite question. That's why I've saved it for last. And I know I'm biased because I've asked this question when Joanna did her Q&A for her Milestone video. And the question is, cavemen versus astronauts, who wins? This was brought up from Buffy the Vampire Slayer spin-off series Angel on the 5th season of Angel, when Spike and Angel are arguing at the beginning of an episode. Angel says astronauts would win because they're more scientifically advanced in mind. Spike says the cavemen would win because they really act on raw human emotion and they behave more based on their instincts and that sort of thing. But the idea is that there's no technology involved. They are not using weapons. It's fist to fist, mano a mano. And in that situation, I think I have to agree with Spike. As much as I love science fiction and I like to be optimistic that we have evolved as a species, I think the caveman is going to beat up the astronaut at least 9 times out of 10. I greatly appreciate you guys. It's my birthday. It's a milestone. It's a wonderful time to be on Booktube. So thank you all. Take care. Every day is a good day for a book talk. Peace.